Says, this question occurred to me earlier while listening to Nate talking about performance at altitude. It's well known that high altitude means lower performance. And although I've not read much around the subject, I assume this is because of air density being lower, so less oxygen is available for our bodies. And he's nailed it there. So good job. He says, this got me wondering if there's a direct correlation between air density and power performance. I know it affects aerodynamics massively, but I'm just thinking about the human effects here. So the reason I ask is because air density also varies to a smaller degree at sea level, depending on weather conditions. Can these small variations in air density be causing fractional changes in our day-to-day performance? Maybe the cause of those, quote, off days that we all get sometimes. Many thanks from James. Amber, this is like, we were talking about this in the planning meeting. You've heard like here tell plenty of stories and lore about this sort of thing, right? All throughout your career.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Over the years you hear all kinds of everything that ranges from superstition to some interesting interpretations of other scientific principles. But it's funny because I have had a lot of teammates over the years who really genuinely are convinced of, oh, low pressure system coming through, training is going to be off, and it's to me, I got a kick out of it. I thought it was great, but I mean, for them it was a very real thing. So I'm really curious to hear your deep dive on this.
Yeah, I did as about as deep as a Jonathan dive gets on this. So this is definitely not a Chatter Amber deep dive, but to give you some context first. So, and this happens. So air pressure is constantly fluctuating. There's less fluctuation at sea level than there is at higher elevation. At higher elevation, you have greater fluctuation, but we'll go into this really quick. So at like 1,000 feet, you have roughly 98.6% of your aerobic power creating abilities. It's about at 98.6% of what it would be at sea level. And then if you go to 5,000 feet, that drops to about 91%, and 10,000 feet drops to 79%, which is why people at Leadville have to drop down their power targets from what they would normally be, right? Or any sort of high elevation race. So that's kind of some context about why are your performance dropping at elevation. So does the same thing happen when you have barometric pressure fluctuations in a day-to-day manner? So looking at this, if you assume that you have a 70-degree day, which is about 21 degrees Celsius, going from 0 to 250 feet can produce as much as a 9 millibar difference in pressure. Now, I know that millibars probably, yeah, right?
Oh my
so
God.
I know millibars probably doesn't make much sense to us, right? So, but I promise it will be relative to something coming up here. So, but if you look at the typical variance in your barometric pressure and wherever you're living, once again, probably higher fluctuation at high elevation, but marginally so. You're looking at like a 0.7 millibar difference in a stormy winter month, or like 0.4 millibars difference from day to day during a summer month. That's going to be more or less consistent weather. So that's the equivalent of rising up 19 and a half feet or 11 and a half feet in elevation. So really the conclusion on this is that it's equivalent of you just changing your elevation by 10 to 20 feet. So no, it doesn't have a meaningful effect on your performance. But the interesting thing, and like you mentioned in this case, James, it has a profound effect on your ability to travel through air. That absolutely does matter.
So I want to say a different way, John. It doesn't have a huge impact on your power output, but it will on your speed.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're going really fast.
Yep. The faster you go, the more impact it has. Right. So, and this is something interesting. So for like an hour record example, when we had Brad Wiggins do his, and then Victor Kampenertz do his, and I'm sorry, I'm butchering those names. But I'm sure you know who I'm speaking about. But when they did that, Brad Wiggins went 54.526 kilometers. That was his hour record distance. And Kampenertz did 55.089 kilometers. So it was like just about 1% difference. But if you look at the actual air pressure, the barometric pressure on that day, Wiggins had 20% higher barometric pressure. He was down at London in sea level, while Kampenertz was up in Mexico at Aguascalientes, which is like 6,000 feet, way, way less pressure up there. So it's tempting to say, wow, what could have been done if Wiggins had that sort of air pressure difference? Could he have actually had a record that would have been unbeatable? But it really can affect your performance quite a lot. I'm not sure how best bike split really like weights everything. It's hard to get a full apples to apples comparison. But if you watch, there's a video, and get ready to drink, about Keegan doing his white rim attempt when he got it back. And when he did that, we were looking at best bike split. And later on in the day, there was a significant drop in barometric pressure, significant being like 0.3 millibars, something like that. And it was showing that it was significantly faster without a big change in wind conditions when he was spending more time out there on course with lower air pressure. So it is something to be considered. But if you have a TT with the start time, you can't change it anyway. If you have something like an FKT you're going for and you can choose the time, then yeah, it really does make sense.
So for the world record stuff, that the sea level versus 6,000 feet, or about 1,800 meters, 2,000 meters, the thing is that once you go up, you also get less aerobic performance because of the lower air density. And people doing math, 6,000 feet is like the sweet spot. So that's where you're not impacted as much, but the air pressure is low enough that you can go fast. So if you're doing a time trial, that's why all these records get broken in Mexico City. And I believe when they had the Olympics there too, a long time ago, they broke a bunch of records there. Also, Satley, where we have time trial, isn't that like 6,000 feet also? And then
I think it's really close to that, right?
Yeah, and it's very flat. So that's another place where the national records in the U.S., that's a 40K TT course that used to be next to us, get broken. So that's why Wiggins can't just have that lower air pressure and be at sea level. It's not possible unless they did something crazy to the velodrome and pumped it. Yeah, that would be cheat. I don't think they would allow that though.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need a TrainerRoad velodrome with extra oxygen and lower pressure.
And fully sealed off compartments,
so
that we can control the pressure. Yeah. They actually did do that for his hour record attempt, though. They, with Wiggins, they actually changed the temperature. Humid air is strangely faster than dry air, but cold air is slower than warm air. So they actually ended up making that velodrome very warmer than they had anticipated to counter for that pressure drop. But then that ended up also probably adversely affecting his physical performance, right? Because it was slightly warmer. From the Science of Getting Faster podcast that we did with Dr. Chris Minson, he was mentioning that roughly like the ideal temperature for human performance was around 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's, I don't know, that's probably somewhere around like 15 degrees Celsius, I would think, somewhere around there. But that's like, that's pretty chilly if you've ridden in those sort of conditions, but that's where you get into ideals for human performance. So super interesting question to think about. I've always wondered the same thing, if my bad days were caused by just a bad pressure system, and the wives' tale is debunked, sadly.
Imagine you climb up 15 feet and you're like, this is over.
That's why I struggle with climbing. Oh my God.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.